What's the difference between composite and aluminum alloy slow pitch softball bats? Let's break down the difference in this video. All right, so if you're new to slow pitch, the bat scene can be overwhelming. There are tons of options: one piece, two piece, composite, aluminum, single wall, double wall. There's so much to know about slow pitch bats. So let's just break down alloy versus composite, because there's a very big difference. And if you're thinking about buying your first bat, you really want to think about A, what's your budget, and B, what do you want out of it? All right, so let's talk about materials, and we'll talk about composite first, and then we'll backtrack all the way down to single wall alloy. So composite bats come in two piece or one piece. And we call it a composite bat when the barrel is composite. This DeMarini flipper has an alloy handle, so an aluminum handle, and a composite barrel. This Easton Salvo is one piece, all composite. So as long as the barrel is composite, we call it a composite bat. Really, it's a hybrid, but many bats are either one piece, all composite, or two piece, all composite. This DeMarini Twisted Mistress is also alloy handle, composite barrel. This Easton Kapow, which is like a superhero series, is composite barrel, composite handle. So the reason that we use composites is it's a stiffer material, so the walls can be made thinner, and because they're thinner, they will flex more when the ball hits it. They'll have what's called a bigger trampoline effect, where the ball caves the walls in, and then they expand back out to push the ball off. That trampoline effect is what makes the biggest difference between the performance of a wood bat, which has no trampoline effect, and an aluminum or composite bat. So aluminum bats definitely have a trampoline effect, but composite bats have a more pronounced and more violent trampoline effect. So the biggest thing to know at a baseline is that composite bats just flat outperform aluminum bats. And you'll see this in exit velocity. This is the biggest story we need to tell here as well. Exit velocity is how fast the ball leaves the bat. So composite bats, for me, just using my benchmark numbers, like with this Combat one piece, I'll hit about 93 to 95 exit velocity, just hitting a ball off a tee. Same thing with this Easton Kapow, around 95 miles per hour.
95 miles per hour.
These are both comparable composite bats. Now, if we go down and we go to alloy bats, there's three different options. We've got two piece, which are good high performers for the alloy section. We have one piece double wall. This means this has an inner wall in addition to the outer wall, which I can touch with my fingers. So because it has two thinner walls, it has a more pronounced trampoline effect. So this bat will perform better than a one-piece all-alloy bat. This is a one-piece all-alloy bat, and this is basically the same bat technology as in like the 1990s. One piece, this is a pipe, you know, they extruded it, they expanded it, whatever they do, but this is one solid piece of aluminum. So when we're talking about alloy bats, two-piece alloy perform the best. Double wall can perform comparably to two-piece. This is a very old, this is like a 20-year-old bat, but it still performs very, very well. And then one-piece alloy is a significant drop-off in performance. So let me back through and summarize all that for you. So to use exit velocity benchmarks, I'll hit 93 to 95 with this one-piece composite or a two-piece composite slow pitch bat. With a two-piece alloy bat, I'll hit 88 to 90, depending on the bat. That's a pretty big drop-off, about 5 miles per hour. With this double wall bat, I'll hit the same, like 88 to 90 miles per hour. So this is very comparable to the two-piece alloy bat. But the thing is, you won't find many double wall, single piece bats anymore. This is kind of a style that they don't make much of anymore. And then with the alloy bat, the one piece all alloy, single wall, I'll hit around 80 to 83 with this one, sometimes an 85. So a very significant performance decrease, around 80 miles per hour with the one piece alloy, 95 miles per hour with the one piece or two piece composite. So 15 miles per hour exit velocity equates to 3 to 5 miles per hour of ball flight per mile per hour. So this bat could hit a ball 75 feet farther than this bat. That's a big difference. Real quick, if you enjoy my videos here on YouTube, check out the join button below. You'll learn about my channel memberships, where you'll get access to hundreds of videos not publicly visible here on YouTube, and tons of other free perks. So check out the join button below, and I hope to see you here as a channel member. Now, the other big thing between alloy bats and composite bats especially is how big the sweet spot is. So the sweet spot, aka the center percussion, is where you're going to get the maximum force transfer from the bat into the ball. So it's typically somewhere around the T or the S on this Easton. On a composite bat, because the walls are thinner and stronger, the sweet spot is going to be much, much larger than on an alloy bat. And especially with an alloy bat, as it gets towards the taper, the part where it starts to snake down by the trademark, or towards the end cap, the aluminum is not going to flex nearly as much because it's coming close to something that slows the bounciness of it down. It's hitting this, this rigid spot and this more rigid spot where it tapers. With the composite bat, because the walls are thinner, they can still flex quite a bit, even towards the end cap and even towards the handle down here. So when you hit with a composite bat, one of the things you're getting for the much greater expense, these are much more expensive, is you're going to have very high performance for a much larger range on the barrel. With an alloy bat, if you don't hit it very close to the sweet spot, it's not going its maximum distance for this bat. On this Easton Salvo, you could hit it here, you could hit it here, you could hit it here, you could hit it all over, almost like a 10-inch area, and still hit the ball pretty close to your maximum velocity. And the other thing to know about composites versus alloy bats is that composites, the fibers start to break down slightly over time. And so most of these bats will eventually break because they're a rigid, like carbon fiber and other composite fibers. And so they don't flex and they won't dent like an aluminum bat will. They'll just start to slowly sort of crack and break down over time and eventually have a catastrophic failure. Now, many of these composite bats are still in use 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I have teammates that have some team bats that are, various brands that are still like 5 years old and still kicking. But on the whole, the more performance you get out of a composite bat, the shorter its lifespan is typically going to be. That's not a hard and fast rule, but that's generally a rule. You won't see many composite bats. You will see some, but not many, that are 20 years old and still kicking. And then let's talk costs. This alloy bat was about $100. You can get one-piece alloy bats for as low as like $40 because they're just very simple technology. They're basically like an aluminum pipe. When we're talking two-piece alloy bats, this Mike and Vicious is $140, and I'll link to all these bats in the description below. This one's $140, and you get pretty darn good performance per dollar with two-piece alloy. There's not as many two-piece alloys on the market because there's not a big demand for them in slow pitch because people want to hit more home runs and hit the ball harder, so they go for composites. This DeMarini flipper is $300 brand new.
96 miles per hour.
And same thing with these two bats, which were $300 when they were brand new. These are both heavily discounted. These are great buys for you SSSA. These are like $160, $170 now. But this Easton Salvo is like $230, $250. This Combat is $300. So in general, composites, it's hard to get a composite that's new for less than $300. You can get little discounts sometimes, like this one's often $50 to $70 cheaper. And these ones are last year's models that are still, like when the stock is gone, it's gone. So these ones are heavily discounted, like $120 off the retail price. But in general, brand new composites are about $300. Brand new two-piece alloys are $150 to $200. And one-piece alloys are $100 or less. And that price point reflects their performance and the demand for these bats. So hopefully this video was helpful. This was just a quick rundown of composite versus alloy slow pitch bats and what you should know about them if you're a beginner in slow pitch. In general, the more money you spend on your bat, the better performance you're gonna get. It's a pretty simple formula, to be quite honest, but you can get some really great deals if you shop around and find a bat on sale where you get a high-end bat for cheaper, and that is usually the way to go. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section. I'll see you here in the next video.